Good afternoon, Flosstube. It's Tuesday the 20th of August. I'm coming back on to give you an update on my end of July stitching and what I've got done so far, because I think this is going to be my last chance to record before I go back to work. We're away next week and then I go pretty much straight back into the office. So I thought I'd better jump on and try and get a video recorded. How long it'll take me to get uploaded, that's another problem, another issue, but we'll see if I can get it uploaded before we go away. So welcome to my Flosstube. I'm Caroline, this is Caroline's Corner. I'm in Leeds in West Yorkshire. This is primarily a video about, this channel's about my crafting. This video in particular is just going to be about cross stitch. Well, I've done a little bit of knitting and a little bit of sewing, just not quite enough to make it worth showing at the moment. I have my coffee in my beautiful Stacey Snyder Cycling Podcast mug, because I've spent the last week very much enjoying the Tour de France fun. Particularly the nail biting finish on Alpe d'Huez, which I think delivered everything that everyone wanted from it. So yeah, of course, watching a lot of cycling means there's been a fair bit of stitching time as well. So as I said, I'm Caroline, I'm in the UK. You can find me on the internet. I'm at Caroline A. Kemp on Instagram. Caroline is spelt with a K. That's primarily where I'm to be found. I am on Facebook, but mostly just to use the stitching groups on Facebook occasionally. So I think I've got a few new subscribers since last time. You're very welcome. So I'd like to say thank you to all my returning viewers and any new viewers. I hope you like what you see. Please like and subscribe, leave comments, all the other stuff. I very much appreciate the comments. I'm not the speediest at replying, but I do try and get to everyone. So let's dive straight into the stitching. As I said, I'm on holiday from work at the minute because it's a school holidays, so there's been a bit of time for some finishing. Mostly what I've been finishing isn't finished yet, but I did finishing a couple of things that were, last time you saw them, were in the process of being finished, which is the last two of the seasonal birds. So summer and autumn are now finished, stuffed with crushed walnut shell. Summer's just got a little print on the back. I just put some ric-rac around the sides. Same with autumn. I know I got it upside down. I also didn't make a note of what size I'd finished the other two at, so these are different sizes. Some are slightly larger than spring and winter, and autumn is slightly smaller, but they're not going to be in a display together. I swap these things out seasonally. So yes, so very pleased to have them finished, and here are the other two. So I have now finished the complete set of the seasonal birds. The charts are by Heart in Hand Needle Arts. I do like stitching the birds. I have Coffee Bird in my stash, so I'm going to have to get that stitched soon, and I'll probably get some of the sewing birds as well. So yes. So another two things off the finishing pile. Otherwise, my finishing time this summer has been spent on a piece by C.A. Wells, that I actually finished the stitching on. If you've been here a long time, you'll remember I spent a while working on three-sided etui. I think I finished it. It was a focus piece a few years ago. It's been sat there waiting to get finished, so I've started finishing on that. That will take me the rest of the year to finish because it's quite detailed finishing. It's not just whipping up a little pillow, and I don't get a lot of time for finishing. Maybe once we get into autumn winter and I'm not outside so much, but it seems a shame to be indoors when I could be outdoors at the minute, either gardening or swimming or something like that. So those are my fully finished objects. I mean, seriously, they only needed the rickrack sewing on, so goodness knows why it took me quite so long, but they are now done, thankfully. So on to my whips. There's no new finishes. Surprise, surprise. First up is my focus piece. Now, if you remember, I had the big finish last month. So for August, I got to start working on my next focus piece, which is Glastonbury Garden by Forget-Me-Nots in Stitches, which is a little case, sewing case with lots of little pillows. I took the class through the Albury Sisters of Hanging by a Thread back in 2012. So to give you an idea of how long I've been working on this. I got a good chunk of it worked on. You have to excuse the rat's nest, but I've had to sub in because I've gotten through a fair bit of the main greens and blues, so I've had to. So it's all sampled threads by Gentle Art. Oops. And here is the outside of the case, which I finished quite a while ago. I mean, I think I got most of that done before I actually got to the class, and since then I've just been trying to work on the rest of it. So that's the outside of the case. This is the inside of the case with all the tacking as to where the pockets go. And here are the pockets. So there's one big one that goes on top of the big one. Oh no, that one goes on top of the big one, that one goes outside. There's a little pin cushion, and what I worked on this month was this long pocket down the bottom. There are another couple of pockets to go, which I will do one in September and one in October. They're described as 3-dimensional pockets, so it's these two here, which are identical. And then all the stitching will be finished on that piece. Took a little while just to get my head into it because I had to work out which colours went where, because I had to go right the way back through the instructions because Lauren doesn't just assumes you're gonna just crack straight on with it and not take 12 years to get to stitch the thing. So that is Glastonbury Garden. Very nice to get that out again. Very nice to have some progress on it at last and to be looking at finishing it. So so once I finish so that was my focus piece for August. So we're now going to jump back to July and my Whitgo. As you know, if you've been around here for any length of time, I'm doing Whitgo. I've got all my small to medium, although some of the sort of medium to large pieces, on a Whitgo board because I'm 24, and I'm working my way through them all this year, depending on the numbers that Jessie Marie calls. And the numbers that were called for July, the first one I worked on was Quaker Hornbook by Ellen Chester of With My Needle. This was a class piece that Ellen offered, and she offered it through guilds, so I got mine through the Sampler Guild in the UK. Again, I've had this in the stash for absolute years. I don't know what I didn't check what the copyright date on it was, but we got it pretty much as soon as Ellen released it. There are two versions that you can stitch to go on the hornbook. There is over 2 on 36 count or over 1 on 32, and I am doing the over 1 on 32. Just give me a minute. Here we go, and this is where I'm up to at the end. This is a scrap of 32 count that I had in my stash. I'm not sure, I mean, other than it's obviously Zweigart, I'm not entirely sure what flavour of Zweigart. I think it might be a printed one because it's got stuff on the other side. I obviously decided didn't fancy that, and I'm working on this side. The thread is a Gloriana silk, and it is in Pacific Blue. When I showed you this in my last video, I'd done everything up the side and I just outlined that half motif there. So I think I had another couple of nights maybe on it. So I just finished off that motif and the one next to it. So I had wondered if I might get this one finished, but that was obviously wishful thinking really on my part. But maybe it comes out next time, or maybe it'll be a bit longer. I've got to take motifs around this side, and then there's an alphabet to go up top. And the kit included the hornbook, which is what fell on the floor. There's the thread keeper. So that will be quite I did enjoy working on that. I love Ellen's designs. So my other Whitgo number that was called for July corresponded to the Scarlet House, A Sampler Grows. It's just this little pin pillow and scissor fob, which I started in 2020, I believe. 2020 or 21. Without looking these things up, I've just got so many now. Again, I didn't get a huge amount done. I was kind of running out of steam towards the end of July because of work. I'm stitching it on a scrap of 40 count Lakeside linen. It's some of the Lakeside that was same Lakeside as I used for Dorothy Walpole. If you've been here a really long time, you'll remember Dorothy Walpole. I was stitching on that for years and years and years. And I'm using some of the call for silks where I had them. Where I didn't have them, I pulled the DMC and matched them to another silk in my stash. I think the called for is MPI, so I am using some MPIs and some of Vero Soir where I didn't have the MPI colour. And this is where I got to. I say I didn't get a huge amount done. Just built some more of the house really. Got all the windows outlined, got the roof outlined, did a lot more fill-in, and just plugged away at that one. Because I was kind of running out of steam when I was working on that one, so it didn't, and it's quite a tight 40 count, and I'm stitching it in hand, so I was finding it hard to see my stitches. I think I might need to put it in a hoop or something that just opens it up a little bit, make it easier. I think this is the Lakeside linen, with the Italian linen base, Graziano linen. Unfortunately they're not making that anymore, but it was lovely linen to stitch on. In pearl barley, I think it was. So yeah, but progress is progress, even if it's very small progress. It's still further on than when I picked it up. So I'm just going to have a cup of coffee, small coffee. And we'll go on to Whitgo for August. Now, so far I've only worked on one of my Whitgo projects. I'll probably swap to my other one towards the end of this week. The way I stitch things, and my Whitgo and my focus pieces get stitched in the evenings. So the only piece that I have to finish a definite goal on is my focus piece. I've earmarked a section. I will work on that bit until it's done. With things like Glastonbury Garden, it's dead easy because it's a pocket. I'm working on that pocket until it's done. So other stuff I might break down into more sections, but Glastonbury Garden is one pocket a month and it'll be done by the end of this year. So however long it takes me to stitch my designated section of my focus piece, and then the rest of the month is divided up between my my Whitgo pieces. So usually each one gets about a week each, because I usually reckon on a couple of weeks to finish off my my focus piece. So the first one I'm working on in August is from Old Colonial Designs, and it is a needlework garden and needlework. This is a liner for a basket, and I got the basket when I bought the kit. So lovely little basket from it, and it's been sat on my shelves for almost 20 years, because the copyright date on this is 2005. I got the kit and the basket in from Silver Needle in one of their New Year's Day Super Bowl sales. I forget which one, shortly after, when it was still relatively new. So yeah, so almost 20 years it's been waiting. So this is why I felt good. I had to get it stitched on the floor. I'm using the called for over dyed threads. So a mix of Weeks Dye Works and sampler threads. Cotton. And here is where I've gotten to. I've made quite good progress so far. When I picked this up, I had 4 letters of the alphabet stitched and the vase. So I have finished the alphabet. I have done the over 1 section on this side and the vine. So everything to this side is finished, because this space up here is where the needlebook sits. So from tonight I'll be working on this way. So I'll get a bit more done on this side before it gets put away again. But I'm very pleased with how far I've got on with that, because I'm probably at about the halfway point, or I will be past the halfway point before I put it away, which will be good. I think this one was started in, this was a Mania start, and I think it was a Mania start in 2021. So pleased. Oh, and the linen is summer khaki, 32 count summer khaki. Very pleased to be getting back to that one. I'm quite enjoying stitching on it. My other Whitgo call, which I'll probably switch to at the end of the week, is Quaker Hussif by Sampler Cove. Again, you can tell how old this is. It's got a proper photo on the front. I've had this in my stash for a long time, and I also have the finishing kit, so I really do need to crack on and get it done. Because I've got the finishing kit in the red, I'm using the called for colours for this one. So it's being stitched on a piece of 36 count navy bean from Lakeside Linens that I got in my stash. I had in my stash an awfully long time. I think when I got it, I earmarked it for this piece. I thought, oh good, I've got that then. I just need to get the thread. And the thread is another Gloriana silk, and it is rosewood. So a very small start. This was started in 2021. I mean, and it's one of those pieces that's on the borderline between being a large piece and a medium-sized piece, because it's going to take, it'll go all the way down. You know, I barely started the top motif, and there's quite a bit to go on that one. But when I get going with it, it should, hopefully, I should get a chunk done when I'm working on it. So yeah, so certainly get that top motif finished, if not some of the butt, some of the alphabet. It'd be nice to get to some of the alphabet, so I'm down a bit further on. And the date on this is 2024, that's sewn onto the, not 2020, 2004. So another one that's 20 years old. But this is why we have stash. And I'm very lucky, and my tastes don't change that much. And the stuff I bought that I loved 20 years ago, I still love. Trouble is, I love loads of stuff that's coming out now. And there isn't enough time to stitch at all. I just need to stop working. That would help. So yeah, that will get stitched on. I'll probably swap projects when we go away, because we're going away on Friday, so I'll swap over. I'll put Needlework Garden down then, and then switch to Quaker Hussif. I think Needlework Garden will have got a lot more time, but it is a lot closer to being finished. So those are my Whitgo. So on a weekend, I get some stitching time in the morning. This year I've been using the roll the dice that they do at Yorkshire Stitchers meetups at the Red Lion to work on a few of my larger whips, so that they see some progress as well, because I've got too many that are just started, because I went through a phase of starting all the things a while ago. So the number that was called, if you remember from my last video, for July corresponded to Black Magic by Just Now. I have a huge stash of Just Now charts, sampler charts, and I love them all. I also had the silk pack for this one, and had the silk pack for this one for, what's the day on this one? I'll tell you the copyright date on this one. Again, 2004. So a lovely friend kindly gifted me the silk pack shortly after it came out. So I've had that silk pack sat there for quite some time. So another mania start for 2021, I made a small start on Black Magic. And here are the silks. It's a mix of Verissoir and 103s. So it was just Anne that actually introduced me to 103 because she used them quite a bit in some of her silk packs. It also calls for some Londonderry linen thread for one bit of the stitching. Just attach it to the board. And here we go. When I picked this up at the start of July, I had just that centre line of words stitched and I had barely made a start on one of the corner flowers. So I am really pleased with just how much I got done in July, because there is an awful lot of over one on this chart. I hadn't realised quite how much. So this is being stitched on some random 32 count antique white linen that I had in my stash. I think it's either Permin or Witchlet. It's not the best linen, to be fair, but it was just the right size, so I thought let's get it used. So the Londonderry thread is this textured band up here. All the over one is under 103, as is some of the other motifs, but if you're using the 103 over 2, just now uses it held double. So yeah, so I've got yeah, so I got all the middle section done and then went out so I could get the outer border in, because there is this border on the outside is over one as well. And Johnson Ann says, don't leave it all to the end. And I'm like, there's no way I'm leaving it all to the end, otherwise it's not getting stitched. So yeah, so basically my approach with this one is to do one thread of the over one and then one thread of over two and then one thread of the over one, so I don't get totally burned out on the over one. But it's looking lovely, and when I get it all in and each of these motifs is outlined in is background is black, it's going to really pop. There's a charm to go in there, beads to go on, of course, but I am really pleased with my progress on this one. It has gone from being just a slight start to being, I'm into the middle. It's now classed, it's moved on from being a start. It's now genuinely, I'm on to the middle of this. It's classed as a whip that's in the middle. I've been, you know, I had a look and I've got so many that are just started and hardly any that are at finish, and a very small handful that are at middle. So if I can get a few more towards middle this year, we'll be doing good. So yeah, so that's where I got to with Black Magic. I say, very pleased with how much I got done on that one. And then Ali rolled the dice for August and it pulled another Just Now. This one is Breath of Spring. I started this one in 2022. Again, hadn't got a huge amount done on it when it got put away. I think it got a weekend's worth. Excuse the rat's nest. I am using the Call for DMC and it calls for 1 water lilies in the colourway Sandstone. Also calls for some perlé cottons in 8 and 12, but I'm in ecru. I'm stitching on 32 count Winter Moon, and here is where I'm up to so far. When I picked it up, I was just starting this blue band with the blue flowers. So quite pleased with how far I've got. I'd hoped to be a bit further along, but there is an awful lot of stitching in those pansies. And I was working on that one while I was away, and of course I didn't have my stand, so they took me longer than they would normally have done if I'd been working on it at home. But still pleased with my finish. I've got another 1-2 weekends to go on this one, so I will be getting close to the halfway point when I put it away, which is kind of the goal, as I've said. Let's just get some along from being just started to being a bit further along. So that is Just Nan, A Breath of Spring, which was the second chart she put out. Fourth chart she put out. This is Just Nan 0004 in 1992, but I've always loved these seasonal charts. They were one of the first ones I absolutely fell in love with. So the first samplers I ever stitched was Just Nan's Catnip Tea, which is on the wall, but you can't see it because it's up above me. And yeah, I absolutely love. She's one of the people who have probably got the most on the wall, her and Drawn Thread, because I fell in love with them in the early 90s when I started stitching, and I still love them. Like I said, I still love these seasonal samplers, even though they're 30 odd years old, and I want to get them stitched. So it's took me 20 odd years to get it started, but I'm very glad now finished. So yes, so you'll see that again next time I put a Flosstube together. So yeah, so on a Sunday evening I've been working on, just have some more coffee, the Year of the Dragon sale, which I decided to join because I had a dragon started, and in common with most stuff, it was only a tiny start. I think I've got the corner up here, because I'd had to restart it because I'd stitched quite a lot, but I started in the middle and I'd got my fabric the wrong way around. So yeah, so I thought if I use the Year of the Dragon sale, so this is my Sunday stitch at the moment. I got the kit on a trip to the States over 20 years ago. There's a running theme here, you'll see. And so I had to junk the kit fabric, obviously. They'll probably reuse, cut it up and use it. So I'm using the DMC that came with the kit, and I'm stitching it on a randomish, on a piece of, I think it's 32 count, or it might be 28 count, that was in stash. And here is where I'm up to now. I've only actually worked on this for a couple of Sundays since you last saw it, because we're going away on holiday. I wasn't taking this one, it's just too much. It's too much to oik, and it does need to be worked on my stand so I can pay attention to it. So I had just started the dragon, so there's a little bit more. I've just done it a bit more of his wing. Since you last saw it, I'm just chipping away getting the wing in. I'm sort of working in diagonals, so but I'm not religiously sticking to just stitching my diagonal, because I will just work until I think they call the method cross country, stitch until your thread runs out. So I pick a thread in the diagonal, and then hence, you know, I'm up here, and that's why the sky's over here rather than being religiously on the diagonal. So yeah, I'm very pleased with my progress on that. To say I only work on it on a Sunday night. And when we get to the end of the Year of the Dragon, I will probably put this away, because I've got other plans for Sunday night stitching for next year. But I'm really pleased to be getting towards the quarter mark on this. And again, this is not just a start anymore. But you know, especially for a TW, Teresa's charts are interesting, shall we say, with all the blended thread and the quarter stitches, which is why I need to be sat down. I've actually resorted, I haven't marked a chart off in years, and I used to do it all the time with the highlighter pen, but with this one, you can bet I have gone back to marking my chart off, because it's pretty much full coverage, apart from a tiny bit of sky up here. The rest is pretty solidly stitched. But that's my progress on my dragon. I'm very pleased with that. And then, because I was on holiday, and I did just discuss this in my last video, I'd been catching up with a lot of Flosstube. I don't normally get a chance to watch much Flosstube when I'm working. It's a couple of hours on a Saturday morning usually. So if Brenda and Laura put out a long video, that's it. I'm just watching that. Because during the week I just don't. By the time I've stopped playing Mum's Taxi, my husband's not hugely into Flosstube, so we have enough actual TV that we want to watch of an evening. So most of my stitching time is done in front of television rather than Flosstube. So that, I say, it's usually mornings. The holidays I'm getting to watch a bit more. So anyway, I was watching Narissa of Narissa's Stitching Lifestyle, and she's got all those stunning samplers, and she's doing this year again, she's doing her stash sampler starts. I'm not doing the stash sampler starts. I have enough samplers to do those, but what I thought I would do is the stash sampler stitching, which is work on some of the ones that aren't getting pulled for Roll the Dice, just to put a bit of progress on, because I've got 6 weeks of holiday. And during the holidays I get morning stitching during the week. It's not just a weekend thing. So what I decided to do was pull out all my reproduction samplers that aren't getting called for that aren't on my Roll the Dice list, and put 5 weekday mornings, 5-day mornings in on those samplers. So I showed you them all last time, so here is where I've got to. So the first one I pulled was Hannah Coates' 1848 by Hands Across the Sea. Now I worked on this quite a bit last year, but didn't feel like I got very far because I'm working down the bottom on that damn grass. I'm stitching mine in the DMC. Colours on a piece of 42 count. Just get it clipped on. Light mocha linen. So I did a bit more down the bottom. On the house, on the grass, I got this, I'm not sure what it is, it looks like an alpaca. Might be an alpaca, she might have seen alpacas in 1848, you never know. Might be a goat, might just be another sheep. So I got the grass around that animal in, got another sheep stitched, took the grass out there, finished all the mortar in the house, got all the windows in, and filled in, got over the halfway point on filling the house in as well. I am past the halfway point on the bottom, that was about there. Just past the halfway point, but I'm past the halfway point, it's a milestone, I will take it. You know, there's going to be a lot of stitching in some of these samplers, and so you take the wins when you can. So yeah, so it was nice to work on Hannah again. I didn't think I was going to get to do her get some time in on her this year, so I thought I'll take what I can with these ones. They're big girls, they're going to be around a long time. So that was week 1, that was Hannah Coates. Week 2 was Rachel Howls. As a lot of people working on Rachel Howls have worked on Rachel Howls. I'm using the Call for MPI silks, and I'm stitching Rachel on 40 count cream linen. And again, I just put in 5 days, but what I did was I got done was the bottom border. So I had just started the bottom border. I just think I'd just put in that flower to get my spacing. So I stitched all the way along the bottom border, outlining the flowers. Now someone on Instagram, Kathy, I think it was, asked me about the outlining. The main reason I'm doing this is because experience tells me I need to frog borders. I know I had to frog a huge chunk of Hannah Coates' border, and I just stitched the vine and that was hard enough. So I am not filling in as I go, because just in case I need to frog stuff, if I miscount, which I do sometimes on the leaves, I don't want to be frogging the fill-in. Not to mention then when I have finished, I can go up and start filling in, which I have done on a few places. But yeah, so next time I pull this out, I should get the border to meet, and the border will be done, and I can start on the fun stuff in the middle, put some more of the flowers in. So yeah, basically I'm just doing the border to make sure it meets, and I'm doing it that way just because if I was filling in every leaf as I went, I'd still be just up here. And like I say, I know how often I have to frog borders, and there is no way I'm filling all the leaves in and then frogging the border. So yeah, hopefully I won't need to frog, having stitched it in such a way that if I need to I can, then I won't. But I know what I'm like, and I know how badly I can fail to count on occasions, so this is why I'm doing it this way. Not to mention that then I will have loads of easy stitching when it comes to filling it all in. But yeah, really pleased to have 3 sides of the border done. I started this one in 2021, so it's taken 3 years to get 3 sides of the border done. Right, more coffee. So then last week I was working on Marianne Aldred, which is a lovely little sampler that I really enjoy working on, and I was tempted to fudge my roll the dice. I used a tiny decision wheel to select my projects, and I was a little upset that it didn't put Marianne Aldred on because I really do like her. This is by Needlework Press. I forgot to say that Rachel Howls is Scarlet House, but I'm sure you know that. Didn't need me to say that. So this is by Needlework Press. I bought this when it was a exclusive for the Facebook group, Homespun Needlework Facebook group run by Julie Casave. It has now since been released. So it came, you could choose silks or overdyed cottons. I chose the overdyed cottons. Okay, they're all Crescent colour work, classic colour works. Crescent colours, it's not been Crescent colours for years. And again, just 5 mornings. I wake up really early because I have to be up early for work, and I don't. So, you know, when you've got to get up at 6 o'clock for work, I don't get up at 6 o'clock in the holidays, but I'm usually up before 7. So, which is a long time before the rest of the family. So I get quite a bit done. So here's my progress on Marianne. When I picked her up, just a berry bowl, one of the over 1 stars, those are over 1, and some of the top, most of the top bordering. So this time I got the second over 1 star, I got the pear tree with the blackbird stitched, half the border done on that side. I've come over and I'm working on the equivalent tree on this side and doing again, filling in the border as I go. So I'm almost, I've got the greenery in for about half of the border now. So really pleased with my progress on that one and how that's coming together. As I say, this isn't a big sampler, so it's, although it does have a big house, of course. So really pleased with how much I managed to get done. This was while I was away on holiday as well, so again, stitching one-handed rather than two-handed was a little awkward, but hey. So yeah, Marianne. So that's 3 of my 6 samplers that I've worked on so far. So this week, my sampler is Ros de Featherstone, which was the exclusive sampler from Hobby House Needleworks in 2021. So I bought the kit from Hobby House and I went for the overdyed cottons version because if you get the silks, are so expensive, and almost certainly I've gotten quite lucky with customs charges in that if I tend to find if I go for the overdyed cotton version, it comes in just under the £135 limit. So doesn't always, but yeah, but if I went for the silks, it would be way over the the limit for import duty, so, and VAT, so you get clobbered. I can't remember what I didn't make a note of what the fabric is for this one, which was a bit remiss of me, other than it's 40 count. But here is where I am up to on Rosa. So I've worked on this for a couple of mornings so far. So I had a little, just sort of the top of the border. So, and I was part way through this funky but vase of flowers, plant pot, whatever, over on that side. So what I've done is I finished that off, took the border down on that side, and then I've come across and I'm starting to take the border down on this side and work on another vase of flowers on this side, because I couldn't face starting in on that house. It's quite a beast. So I thought, well, I'll work on the, so I'm sort of alternating a thread of the border with a thread of a motif. So the border is being stitched in a Valdani cotton, and I'm finding I have to work with really, really short lengths, otherwise it just shreds on me. So I get about one pattern repeat, so I have just enough thread in my needle to do one pattern repeat, and that does it. But I'm hoping I can get the border about halfway down. I'm just shy of halfway on this side, so if I can get the border halfway down both sides, and maybe finish this flower off this week, and I'll be quite happy with that progress on Rosa. Again, just inching her forward from being just a small start, which she was when I think I worked on this sampler September last year, and took her from just a tiny bit of border to having finished the border across the top and made a start on that vase. So yeah, so she's growing slowly, but really, really enjoying working on them. So yeah, so I have another 2 to work on. Say, I'm doing my sampler September and August because I've got time to work on them. I know what September will be like when I get back to college. It will be nuts, and I'll be exhausted, and I won't get to work on very much, and I'll probably be crawling through the door and just collapsing in a heap. So anyway, I'm going to pause here, move everything, and then get my stuff from the big stitch, and I will talk about the big stitch briefly before we go. Right, got myself sorted, and I'm back with another pile of stuff to show you. So before I get into talking about the big stitch, I just thought I'd show you a couple of bits of stash that have come in. I mentioned this one on my last Flosstube, sorry about the glare, but it's one of those cellophane jackets that's really awkward to take stuff out of. So I'm leaving this in for the minute. This is Just Nan's released a new sampler, first one for 10 years. And as I said, I love Just Nan's samplers, so obviously I had to get it. It's Magical is the name, it certainly is. I will enjoy stitching that. I got mine from Northgate Needlecrafts. I don't know when I'll stitch it, but I'm sure I will in due course. It will go with all the other Just Nans that I have waiting to be stitched. It's lovely, and I'm looking forward to that one. The other piece of new stash was the latest exclusive from the Facebook Homespun Needlecraft Facebook group. It's by Jeanette Douglas, and it is this spool called Simple Gifts spool, which is all stitching related, which I am. It's just little motifs, but it's lovely. I've got some scissors on there, and a spool of thread, and just some little motifs. So again, you had to buy the whole kit, so it came with a spool, which you can hold your scissors, So Jeanette gave us a thread card. There was a finishing kit, and Shepherd's Needle, who put the kit together, gave us a little notebook as well. The fabric is 36 count Dolly Madison from Needle and Flax. And there's the thread pack. Jeanette is very good at knowing exactly how much thread she needs to put it in a thread pack. So it doesn't necessarily give you full skeins. She will give you part skeins of stuff, which I do like about her. Now, and I've dropped something. Because there is also a little needle minder and floss tag as well, in the shape of, oh, here it is. There we go. Little floss jewellery in the shape of a spool and a needle minder, which are lovely. And so that can also go on the list of things that need to be started. And then we'll get on to the big stitch, which was in Rotherham at the end of July. I know loads of people have already spoken about this, like Mama Loves You GB, Michelle, who I did get to catch up with at the weekend, saw quite a few other people. Didn't quite get to speak to Christina from Wild Starry Snaps, just saw her across the room, but every time I was free, she was talking, already too busy, and ditto. Or I was talking to someone when she was free, so it would have been really rude to, sorry, got to go and speak to someone else. And, you know, I was too busy catching up with some old friends. It was lovely to see. The whole event was fantastic. Magna was really nice place to hold it. It was really easy to get to because it's just off the M1. It's only less than an hour's drive from me, so that was nice. I didn't have to drive too far. I could have commuted each day, but I did stay over on the Saturday night because I knew how knackered I'd be. I'd arranged to meet up with a friend who I'd met at Yorkshire Stitches. We were also table mates at the Great British Sampler Weekend. And we also on the table we ended up on was also someone else I knew from Yorkshire Stitches, which was nice, and some new friends. Lovely. We had a really nice table. It was just, everything ran so smoothly, and I'm sure that Caroline, Sammy, Linda and Andrea they didn't show if anything was going wrong. They were like swans gliding through the whole thing, though I'm sure their feet were going 19 to the dozen underneath. It was also lovely to see Linda and Caroline again, because they're very old friends and I hadn't seen them for years, well before COVID. So it was lovely to have a good catch up with them. Yeah. It was lovely to meet Jacob, who's very approachable and very sharing. He gave some very interesting talks, one on the Saturday when we arrived, and a couple of more workshoppy talks on the Sunday. There was also a very interesting talk by an artist called Tony Buckley on the Saturday afternoon. She's doing a PhD in blackwork, working with the V&A, studying Elizabethan medieval blackwork, and she was running a project called the Unstitched Cough, project, which was a coif is a head covering that they used to wear in the Middle Ages, and the V&A have one where the pattern has been pricked onto it but has not been stitched. And so she took that pattern and lots of other and then put out a call for embroiderers, and Linda, who from the Sampler Guild, was one of the people who stitched and unstitched coif for her. And everyone, I think, did it in different ways. And that was really interesting. And to see her examples of blackwork, she spent a lot of time in the V&A archive, textile archive, doing a very close study of the blackwork and the stitches used and the linen, and I think 78 count linen, 70 something count linen she was talking about at one point that they were using for the using for clothing. Fabulous. I couldn't even contemplate stitching on something that small. The stitching area was great. I didn't need my stitching lamp at all. The vendor area was fantastic. It was a nice selection of vendors. The food was lovely. It was, you know, you could escape outside. I've never actually been to Magna. I should have taken my kids, but they're way too old for it now. It was one of those things that we never quite managed it. Yeah, I just had a fantastic time. It was lovely to meet Alison in person. Hi Alison. And Adito, sorry if I've mangled your name, who told me to watch. I just had a great time just sort of wandering around seeing what everybody was stitching on when I needed a break from my own stitching. So yeah, I'm not sure what I can add that other people haven't said. It was just amazing. They're doing it again in 26, and I shall be signing up. I did take part in the Smalls Exchange, and I got this beautiful Barbarana summer design because the theme was summer, stitched by Donetta, who is Banana Stitcher on Instagram, and absolutely thrilled with that. That is beautiful. And she also made me a couple of coasters and a little project patch, all in Teresa Kogut fabric, which is lovely. And so I'm looking forward to using those. Absolutely thrilled with my exchange. I will insert a video here that I took of the piece I made for the exchange. I did a Blackbird Designs piece from the Sewing Club book called Gathering Swallows, and I'll put that in here. So here is my exchange for the big stitch. The brief was anything to do with summer, and what I decided to do was I went to my trusty Blackbird books and pulled out, this is from the Sewing Club book, and this is a design called Gathering Swallows. It's stitched with the called for Weeks Dye Works, and it's on 32 count sugar maple in, I think the colourway's Papyrus, but I will check. I finished it, say, as a little pillow, put a little tag on the back, with a pocket for some needles, using some gingham from my stash, and some Lady Dot Creates chenille around the outside, and it's all stuffed with crushed walnut shells. So very pleased with how that's turned out. Another gift I got was from one of my table mates, who made us these lovely little auk catchers, and also Made us all a sewing related ditty pin. Here we go. Which is beautiful. I didn't have time to make any table gifts, so I got my daughter to make some cookies, and I took those. Because baked goods never go amiss. There were classes you could take. I didn't do any of the classes. Just decided none of them were really speaking to me. There were also you could also pick up some exclusive designs. Caroline and Linda spoke to several designers, and you could get and arrange for some exclusives for the retreat. I got 3 of the ones available. So first one was by 1897 Schoolhouse Samplers, and it's called Mountain Meadow Moss and More. It's a reproduction sampler. See that. Catherine Godley, March 27, aged 10 years, but I don't think there's a year on it. There you go. I also got one from Jeanette Douglas, Alphabet Garden Spool Summer. This is designed to fit around a 6 hole spool, and the spool that I've got with the other exclusive is only a 3 spool because the guy doing the 6 hole ones couldn't do that many. So, but you know, I might finish it as a sewing roll. I also got the thread pack for this one, which was All Week's Dye Works, from Letitia of Corrie's little shop, who was there with all her threads. So it's in the back, and I can't turn it around because I think I'll be showing you the chart. And the last one I got was from Jacob of Modern Folk Embroidery. It's called Big Tree, Big Stitch. And he was kind enough to sign it for me. And I did decide, I think as I said in my last video, that I was going to make a start on that one while I was at the retreat. And I did. Made a small start. The linen is some from Very Deepest Stash. It's by Lakeside Linen. It is 36 count, and it is called Heather. I very much doubt I don't think it's being dyed anymore. I've had it for best part of 20 years. There is a running theme here, guys, I'm afraid. And I'm just using plain bright white DMC 1 strand. So, and that's where I got to, not very far. Got all the way across the top with the big stitch, so I could line my borders up. This will go on my Whitgo board for next year, and will go in one of the empty slots on my Whitgo board, and then we'll see how far I get and how many years it takes me to finish. Because there is quite a bit of stitching on that. But yeah, when I was stash diving for fabric, I came across that one and thought, that actually, do you know what, if I do, as I was thinking I might do it in red, but then I saw this purple and thought, I don't know what else I'm going to use that for, but it's Lakeside, and you know, I can't not use it because it's Lakeside. And I decided that I would use it for that. So I did a little bit of shopping while I was there. There's some really nice vendors, so it was difficult to choose what I was going to spend my money on. So one of the vendors was the Primitive Hair, and I got one of her needle books. This is The Reader. which then it says just one more page. And I bought the printed fabric to stitch it on. And as it's mostly, I think, calls DMC and a handful of overdyes and one cry neck, but I know I've got the cry neck, so that's not a problem. And I also bought this thread card and thread drops off the Primitive Hair because I liked it. And then another vendor was Ruthie of Crow's Feet Stitching, and I bought Harriet Hepplethwaite 1840-24 of Ruthie. It's hard to decide what I was going to buy off Ruthie's charts, but I decided on that one because I like all the pinks. I also bought a project bag of Flossabilities, I think. One of the project bag sellers, but that's gone to my daughter. And disappeared into her bedroom, and I don't know where it is. But yeah, I could easily have spent quite a lot more than I did. Let's put it that way. So we also got a goodie bag on arrival, and a few people giving out freebies and stuff during the event. So in the goodie bag was a free chart from Old Barn Stitchery Company. They had a table in the vendor area. They had some lovely stuff, which I do need to try and buy off them going forward. Be More Creative came around and distributed this chart for a freebie shield, which I think she said she was going to put on her Flosstube in a month or so. Oh yeah, one of Jacob's workshops was about Frisian letters and how to do Frisian letters, which was nice. Star Parade Designs was there, and he gave out a couple of freebies, but those are charts, so I'm not going to show those. Just going through my pile of stuff. It's just advertising them. Caroline, who's Haystack Stitching, she designed a pinky and provided us with the full kit, so I'm going to have to crack on and get that stitched probably in the next year. She'll look forward to that. Doesn't look like it'll take very long, and she's provided, and it's Gloriana silk thread. On our tables were some charts from the marking sampler, so I picked up that one, which is called Heart and Home, because I liked it, I like the colours. It was a notebook. There's a couple of freebies from Hello and Liv from Liz Matthews and Mama Loves You GB. Everyone got a tin, thread tin, which is lovely, and I can get that out on display. Everyone got some thread from Wonderful, so there's a variegated perlé cotton and some 8-weight sparkly, it's called Dazzle, rayon and metallic. So interesting to give those a try. Handful of stickers, and each table had a cake stand with charms and buttons on, and we got told to help ourselves because they didn't want to take any of them home. And I think that's everything. Say, I had a lovely time. I will happily go back. It was so lovely to meet new people, meet people who I've only spoken to online, catch up with some very old friends, and just generally I had a blast, and with just what I needed after the end of term to just recharge my batteries. So yeah, so I highly recommend the Big Stitch. Anyway, I think that's everything I've got to show you. I think this is going to be another long video, I'm afraid. I don't know when I'll be back. I am contemplating vlogging in September, because once I go back to work, I'm not off work again until the beginning of November, and so that's a long time without a video. And it would be another really long video if I've got to do all of September's and all of October's stitching, assuming I get some stitching in. I'm not so knackered I can't stitch. So I may try and do some vlogging through September rather than a sit down video, because it just takes so long to get everything out and get everything put away again. And we might see how that goes, to see if I can get a video up more frequently. But otherwise, if you're still here, thank you very much for hanging in with me. It's been lovely to spend some time with you today. I shall endeavour to get this edited and uploaded as soon as possible, but don't hold me to that. At least before I go back to work anyway. So yeah, so if you're not a subscriber, please subscribe. Please like this video, please leave me a comment. I do like it when people do. I will see you all soon. So enjoy what's left of the summer. I'm going to try and enjoy what's left of the summer, if we get some more summer. I know when we'll get summer. We'll get summer from the first week in September, when we all go back, because that's the way it's worked for the last few years. The second I set foot back in college, the temperature is in the high 20s. So it just seems to be the way it works. So I'll see you later, guys. Thank you for hanging in with me. Thank you for hanging out with me today. Take care, and I'll see you all soon.